Hi, I'm Sheila Henson, an ADHD coach and educator, and you're watching Brainterviews.
Brainterviews.
A show where I celebrate neurodiversity by interviewing people about the inner workings of their brains. Today, we're interviewing my friend Alex, who is a self proclaimed neurotypical person. Yes, apparently they do exist. And he was kind enough to share with us a little bit about how his brain works, a little bit about some of the struggles that he's had, and obviously you can see we're very excited to see each other, so forgive all of the stupid laughing. Enjoy. Hey, Alex, nice to see you.
Hey Sheila, how are you? God.
It's good to see you so far
I
away.
know. So close yet so far away.
Yes. So Alex and I worked together for many years with neurodivergent clients, and sometimes being in a house for hours and hours, days and days on end.
At least it felt like it.
Yes. With some neurodivergent clients, and many of whom were heavily traumatized and had a really difficult time regulating. And so we were trying, in building that trust with those clients, definitely took time and some injuries.
Oh yeah.
So
a lot of war stories there.
Yeah, there was definitely a time a computer got thrown at my head. I think it was because I refused to draw a pumpkin. For October. And
I think a toaster was thrown off. Yeah, no, was that, or was it a toaster that was thrown off the counter? Either way, I caught it, right?
You caught the computer coming at my head. I remember that one.
Oh, okay.
And I remember very specifically that it was because I was like, I can't draw that pumpkin right now. and
because you had already drawn like 500 pumpkins.
I had already drawn many pumpkins. Yes. Oh, the good old days. Yeah. So I have, so Alex has worked in mental health, gone to school for psychology, understands a lot about neurodivergence, but is neurotypical. So what does that mean to you, Alex, to be neurotypical?
Honestly, I'm not really sure what that means, but from my understanding, I feel like say the way the school system works, how like social cues work, like they're more like fitted towards a person like me, I guess. I don't know. I'm guessing because being neurotypical, you're able to pick up cues, like social cues. I've always been pretty good at that, you know. I've always been a good like at reading people's like, I don't know, like emotions, or at least like, you know, the air in the room. It's like kind of hard to explain. But I feel like one of those things that like I'm able to grasp, whereas some people are not, especially with some of the clients that we work with. You know, the younger kids aren't able to pick up on those things, which is like, it's kind of hard to teach. It's just kind of like it's like measles, you pick it up at school.
Yeah, and I know for a lot of people that process of learning that can be so stressful, or like takes so much emotional energy. It's like, why even socialize at all, you know?
Yeah, and for someone like me, you just kind of get it. It's just always like there. You don't have to really work towards it. You just kind of like, you know, oh, it is what it is.
Was it like that? Like when you were growing up, was it easy to make friends for the most part?
I mean, I didn't have a difficult time making friends when I was a kid. I mean, it got harder when I was getting towards puberty, I guess, you know, being going towards middle school, when you start second guessing yourself, when you see, you know, cool kids and you see the not cool kids, and you think, oh God, where do I fit in this? Of course, I'm going to try to lean towards more, you know, the cooler side, and do everything I can to not be associated with that. So, but no, but before that, like say, like up until like fifth grade, I had like no problem. You know, I would just like be like, hey, what's up? Want to play the sure? And then we'll just. I was actually very very typical boy when I was growing up. You know,
Weird.
it's like weird, right? Who would have thought? Yeah, I played sports. I liked video games. I liked roughhousing. Yeah. So it was a pretty typical like childhood, I guess.
Yeah, with the normal, you know, puberty blues.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah.
That's when the shade hit the fan. Before that, everything was great.
Yeah. Did you was it easy for you in school as well? Like, did that come pretty naturally to you?
Like, you mean like schoolwork, like academic wise?
Yeah, academics and just like the school environment, like sit down, listen to the teacher, you know, do your homework.
That was fine. Academically, not so much, because I I didn't have like the many resources, I guess, to like as far as like studying and help with that. But I did okay. I was never like an A+ student, but I was never failing. I always landed like right in the middle, like just C's and D+s, you know. That's how I was able to like survive in school for the most part, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, like yeah, school was like honestly a lot of fun. I liked it. I really didn't have any much trouble with like other kids um or like dealing with like, well, maybe because well, let me tell you, my first elementary school, I grew up like, you know, in the city with like a very large Latino population, so I fit right in, you know. I did switch schools halfway through like third grade, and I went to like the bougie part of LA, in West LA, where then I was like one of two like kids of color in an entire classroom, so that was a big culture shock for me.
Yeah, that's a whole
Yeah.
different struggle from the
Oh God, yes.
neurodivergence. Wow. Okay. Was it when you were in high school, was it similar? Like you continued to just kind of be okay?
uh, by that point, I had kind of learned to pretend to be okay. But see, high school was a different story. By then, I was already like dealing with my sexuality. I was trying to accept the fact that this is who I am, and it's probably not going to change. And I wasn't very happy about that. So I did my hardest to try to fit in, to try to just survive, honestly. But no, I really hated it for the most part. It took me a lot of years to like accept who I was and to be okay, you know, with and accepting this person that I'm probably going to be, you know, or this life that's ahead of me.
Yeah. And like
Yeah,
that there is like such a parallel there. I mean, also a lot of crossover, but like just the being able to trying to figure out who you are versus what you're expected to be and or what
exactly,
you're going to be.
exactly. And I feel like I had a lot of expectations too. A lot of like need to succeed was like placed upon me because, you know, I'm first generation from an immigrant family, the only child, the only boy, the first to graduate high school. And so yeah, a lot of expectations were like placed upon me, and that also brought me a lot of guilt because it took me years to finally figure it out. But I just felt guilty that I couldn't meet those expectations. But then I realized there's just no way, it's impossible. So
Good
yeah.
realization.
Yeah.
That's a lot of the realizations I have was like, oh, not only is it okay that I don't do this, but like this was never even possible. Like this was never even on the
Exactly,
table. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. And I felt like no matter how much even if I did my best, it still wasn't good enough. So then I did have that like realization at a young age. So maybe I just have to just do okay for me right now.
Yeah.
And whether my family accepts it or not, then that's on them. Yeah. But be able to realize that didn't make it easier for me. Like I still had that guilt. I still felt bad about it, but I just knew that this is the reality of it now. But being able to be okay with it, that was a different story.
That came in the grown-up
Yeah.
times.
In the grown-up time, in the therapy time.
Therapy. Thank goodness.
Right? I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I think this is good. Like thinking about, I think a lot of in the like neurodivergent communities, there's a lot of sort of assumption that being neurotypical means like your life is easy or like your life is
Oh yeah, God no.
that like, you know, that society is built for you. But there are so many different aspects, and obviously like intersectionality is a huge topic, like part of that. But for, you know, for you having being from an immigrant family and having, you know, and being gay just is another way that society's expectations like are harder to meet
Definitely.
and, you know,
Yeah.
things like that. And there are, I wonder if there is even one person in the world who's like, yes, I have met all of society's expectations and I feel great about it. Like, I just can't imagine that being a thing.
No, no one's a 10 for 10. Whether they might on the outside, they might look like they probably do meet size expectations, but definitely the family wise, it's probably a different story.
Yeah.
Even like the people who are, you know, came from a wealthy family, you know, with a silver spoon in the mouth, I'm pretty sure there's still something that, you know, they feel guilty about as well.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just, yeah, grass is always greener, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think a lot of the people that are enforcing those societal standards are people who have so much guilt and shame about not meeting them that they
Yeah.
become sort of extra rigid in like trying to make other people like implement that. And I think
Yeah. That's a good point.
if you're like comfortable with yourself, then it kind of makes it easier to be comfortable with other people.
Yeah. Although it's not an easy journey to get to that point though. And I feel some people are lucky or blessed to be able to figure out early, some not until like later in life, you know?
Yeah. If that.
Yeah. If that, exactly. Some people might never even get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of like introspection, looking inward journey for all of us.
Yeah, which is hard if you're told your whole life that what's in there is bad. Don't look,
Right?
it's bad.
Don't look.
No,
Oh, God.
it's not bad. It's fine.
Nah, no. If anything, in my case, it was like a crowded disco with like glitter everywhere.
It's beautiful.
It was beautiful. I loved it.
So I want to talk because of this idea of like neurodiversity, right? I think people hear the word neurodiversity now, they're thinking a lot about like diagnoses, like, oh, you're autistic, you have ADHD, you have bipolar, like whatever. This is neurodiversity, but actually neurodiversity is like full spectrum, right? It's not like red, orange, yellow, green. It's like the full, like, and so like one of the things that's become really interesting to me is picking apart the way that people process their world, their experiences, their thoughts. I'm going to ask you some questions about your inner brain, which it's interesting for some people. It's hard to answer these questions, and for other people, they know. Like someone was like, "Oh, do you have an inner monologue?" I'm like, "Yes." They don't shut up. Like it's a whole play. It's Broadway in there at all times.
Yeah.
There's songs, there's monologues. And so, but for other people, they're like, "Oh, I have to think about that. Like, am I hearing words? Is it?" Things like that. So when you have thoughts, is it more words, pictures, concepts? Like when you're thinking about stuff, what do you experience?
I think it's mostly words. Like when you say inner monologue, aside from like, the inner thinking voice, I have noticed that like when I'm in a new environment or an environment where I'm still unsure how people will see or perceive me, like at work, I do like practice or at least rehearse what I'm going to say, like maybe like 2 seconds before I actually say it. I'm not sure if other people are like that, but I've learned to kind of master that art. So to not, I guess, try my best to put my best foot forward, especially at work when there's so many people that like I'm looking up to and I want to learn from. So that's just like my way of trying to look good, I guess.
Yeah. And it's interesting. Like I've been talking to a lot of my clients who are autistic, and that they talk about how they've rehearsed what, like, would just stand in front of the mirror, like through childhood, like rehearsing what they're going to say because they don't know how to, like that doesn't come naturally to them. And for me, I was like, oh, like I relate to that in moments of like a job interview or like I'm going to talk to someone I have a crush on or like something like that. But I wouldn't be like rehearsing like, hey, do you want to go to the movies this weekend?
Right, exactly. Like say between you and I, how we can like chat and banter about whatever, and I'm like totally comfortable, and I don't have that need to like rehearse. But yeah, definitely, obviously, you experience it more like in an interview or when you're talking to your boss or this person you have a crush on, Yeah.
And I think that that's interesting, like thinking about, because, you always hear those people that are like, everybody's a little bit autistic, everybody's a little ADHD, like da-da-da. And when you think about, oh, well, like, yeah, we all are not completely different species. That is correct.
Right.
We all experience these things, but like to what extent, and so that's interesting to hear, like,
It is. And I always wonder, like, people who are on the spectrum, if they have the same, like, experiences but just to a higher degree, like even just saying hello, how are you, good morning, like they need to rehearse that, or even with somebody that they've known forever, they still feel the need to kind of rehearse that.
Yeah, for sure.
Which honestly, it sounds pretty exhausting.
It sounds so exhausting. Yeah. And like for me,
I've
like with the
I was just gonna say, because when on the moments when I have to do it, I'm like, after I'm done saying what I have to say and I walk away, I'm like, okay.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And like for me with my ADHD, it's funny because I'll rehearse what I have to say, but when I'm in the moment, I almost don't have any control over what I'm saying anymore.
Oh, really? Does it just go out the window?
It just goes out the window. Like it makes me feel better. Like it'll reduce my anxiety. Like, okay, I have that. But once I never know what's about to come out of my mouth. Like, right, I have no idea what's next. Like there's no forethought. And that's like, yeah, that for me, that was the hard thing socializing as a kid was not necessarily that I couldn't pick up on social cues. Like I feel like a very socially competent person. I like being social. But I would just do weird things. I would start singing.
Yeah.
I would start rehearsing a book that I just read or something like that. Just would like come out of my mouth, and people thought I was weird.
Just randomly, unprovoked, like no one's asking you.
In moments of quiet is when it happens. Like, I have a hard time with moments of silence like that.
Wow.
It's not like even like I'm like, it's quiet, I need to do something. It's just like as soon as the silence hit, my brain just goes like like whatever.
Oh my God.
Or something.
You must have been great if you grew up. You didn't grow up Catholic, did you?
Till I was 9, I did not.
Did you have those thoughts when you're like just sitting in church? Because those church sermons can like drag on, and you have to be in complete silence and look solemnly. So how did that feel like when you had to be in complete silence or go to hell?
I became an avid daydreamer. It was I am very good. I can really like sit and look at a wall and and that was the same thing in school because I was very bored in school. Like I couldn't focus. So I had a very, it's not so much now because I get so busy now, but I had such a rich, like inner, like imaginary world that kept me occupied. And I was always writing stories or, writing poems and songs, and I don't do any of that really now. but I like
that's beautiful.
I had to like interact with something at all times. And so if I don't have stimulation, like I will create stimulus. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. See, for me, I would just replay funny bits in my head, like funny TV shows or funny movies in my head, and just like crack up laughing inside.
That too.
But yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I also wrote a lot, like there's in the church that I went to, there was like little pencils and then stuff. So I was always doodling. And that's how I got through school. I mean, right now, these are my favorite fidgets, like a hair tie and a.
Speaking of fidgets.
Yes.
That's what I have right now.
For everybody.
I have it next to my desk whenever I need it.
I love it. I really like the things that things that pull or squeeze. Those are my favorite fidgets.
Wow.
I don't know. So like rubber.
Have you seen I think we've seen those little like cubes that have like little multi fidget thingies, like little like pop thingies you get to pull, you get to squeeze. Like, oh my God, that's genius.
Yeah, that's
I don't know. So why would
for me? But I'm glad that they.
I will look at it like, what good is this? And then I see I'm talking and like it's still doing it back. I'm like, oh wow, this has been in my hands for the past 3 hours,
Yes, I've been giving my 4-year-old nephew like poppers, and when we have to have like a hard discussion, like, oh, why did you hit your brother or something like that, I'll hand him that, and then he can totally like focus for longer, good. Probably ADHD, but even if he wasn't, I think that like it's good for everybody to have like sensory input and fidgeting and all.
Probably it takes the edge off,
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, like alcohol does, anyways.
So you have an inner monologue. Do you also see pictures in your head? Like if I said think of a cow, you can't see a cow?
I mean, well, yeah, if you mention it, but okay. I think what comes to me is like words come to me first. Like, have you ever played that association game? Like you name something and the first thing that comes to your head. Like, I think I played that game like not that long ago, and like somebody said like, okay, they say the mall, and my immediately word was like cool. Like I think of a word where like other people will picture like say the food court or a store, but for me it's always words that come to my mind first, and then like the picture second.
Oh, okay. But you actually do see things. It's just not the first.
It's not the first.
When you're reading like a fiction book, are you seeing like what's happening in your mind?
Yeah. That I do. I do try to immerse myself into it. Harry Potter for one. Like that one I wish I had seen. I wish I had read the book before like seeing the movies, because now when I read the book, I just picture the movie in my head.
Yeah.
I picture, the actual actors, and and I think of, Hermione as like the actress, not the actual character like it is in the book,
I'm going through that because I read the first 8 Outlander books before I saw the show. And then I saw the show, and now I'm reading she just came out with the newest Outlander book, and now it's all the characters from my that I had created, they're gone, they're dead. Now it's just been replaced by them by the show, which they're fine, but I think I liked mine better.
Right? Yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, they look harder in my head anyway.
So one of the like biggest struggles for me with my neurodivergence has been the task initiation, just like being able to think, I want to do something and then doing it, right? That's like a huge problem with most ADHDers. And I know we've talked about this before where you were like, so like, you want to clean your room, but you can't. And I'm like, so you want to clean your room and then you just do it? Like, obviously you have a normal amount of like, oh, I don't want to do this, but then you can just do it essentially.
Right. Like if I were to force myself, I have to like literally put a gun to my head, I would do it. But since that's not an issue, that's not the case. Like my room is a bit messy right now for the most part, but I feel like if I want to do it, I have to do it like 100% right. It needs to be clean from like top to bottom. I can't just pick up the dirty laundry. Well, I can, but at least like my desk, it needs to be spotless and then clean it with like pledge and polish it, then I'll feel like satisfied. So the fact that I can't do that, like with the amount of time that I have, I just don't start. So then I tried not to be myself about it. Like afterwards, I try to feel good. So like, oh God, why can't I do it? Like I'm just lazy. But then I realized like, no, that's not healthy, first of all. But also, if you can't get it done, it's not the end of the world either.
Yeah.
It's, there's no point in beating myself over it either.
Yeah. So I mean, that's good. That's something that I mean, and that is, I would say, like a form of task initiation struggle that a lot of my clients have, is that perfect or nothing. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
There's like a saying that I don't know who came up with it, but it's like, if anything worth doing is worth doing badly. That's kind of like a good mantra. Like if it's worth cleaning your room, just half-ass it, like that's good for you. And
it's a good way to even just get started, because once you start and think, oh, okay, it's actually not so bad after all. Yeah, I couldn't polish the floors, but at least everything else looks tidy.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And so do you like, okay, so for me, my ADHD, what that looks like in my life would be, right now I have a stack of mail that's unopened. I have, I struggled with getting my taxes done from last year. So don't report me. Like I got an extension and then still like at the end of I was trying to put it into TurboTax and it was like, this doesn't match this doesn't match this. And I just went, and then stopped looking at it. Actually, Angela's going to help me do my taxes. We have to pay for that.
That's good.
But like, like getting overwhelmed can make it so that I've got a lot of tools now. I guess when I was younger, it would definitely look like me overdrafting my bank account over and over and over again, but like avoiding looking at it. It would look like me not being able to turn in assignments, or really procrastinating like an essay until the last second or a week later or whatever, things like that. Do you have those struggles, or is it easy? Like if you're like, okay, like, do I want to get the mail? Like I'm going to go through it, or?
Oh no, like procrastination, absolutely. That's always been a struggle for me. I'm the kind of person I'll probably wait till the last night to do an essay, and the funny thing is like I'll kick and like guilt myself for not doing it earlier, but then once I start and get it done, then I feel fine. I'm like, okay, there was no point. And yeah, I usually I am like right on time. Like I know like my limit. Like I know if I start at least by 8, then I'll be done by like 12 or 1, so I won't be like up all night. But yeah, the struggle, like the whole day beforehand, I'll be like thinking about it and then thinking, oh God, that's right, I have to go do this, and like dreading every minute. And then once I realize, as I'm sitting down and I'm working on it and it's getting done, I realize, oh, it's not so bad. I don't know why I couldn't just done this earlier. I could have just easily done this during, in the morning before work.
Okay, so you do have some task initiation. Like that's very like ADHD thing of you.
Yeah. Wow, there you go.
But ADHD is not the only reason for executive dysfunction. It could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be raised to be a perfectionist. Like there's a lot of different it's not a diagnosis to say that you procrastinate essays, but
probably
it is
not.
like but that is definitely like a like the person I interviewed, the last one, go watch that if you haven't yet. With Taylor, she was talking about how, like I used to procrastinate, but then I realized that, it saves you so much stress if you just don't procrastinate, you just get it done. And so then I started doing that. And I was like, wow, I realized that 20 years ago, I still can't implement it, she was able to like take that insight and like use skills to stop procrastinating. Has it been something that you've sort of pursued support with, or is it just something you're kind of like, it's not that big a deal in my life, like it's fine?
Kind of that. Like as long as I get it done, as long as it's in on time, I'm usually okay. I just ask myself, how much do I want to struggle beforehand? Like, do you really want to start at midnight and then be up all night and lose sleep over it? Which I've done many times before. And normally I get like an okay grade. Like, yeah. Now I think as I've gotten older, I realize, yeah, it's just much easier. Don't put yourself through that like physical and mental torture if you don't have to. Um, it's just, yeah, it's just not worth the headache sometimes. I think like for me, like I think since I just finished a semester right now at school, and I had a couple papers to write and I had like a couple of projects I need to be done, I found myself actually starting like a week ahead and like doing it before, like a couple of days even before the due date. I was like, oh, it feels pretty nice. I was like, oh,
Wow.
okay. I know, right? I'm finally growing up, right?
Yeah, I can usually do that at the
Yeah.
beginning of a semester, like the first few weeks, maybe months, if I'm lucky. Like, oh, I'm getting everything in on time. Everything's color coded. I got it highlighted. Like 3 months in, I'm like, I don't
Perfection.
even know what
Yes,
class
huh?
I'm in. I haven't been there, and I am. I don't know where I am anymore. Like keeping that consistency is really difficult for me, which is
It is difficult
great.
because it's very easy to start off on the right foot. Everything's perfect. You're on this roll, and then say you mess up on this, or this is late, or you get like a bad grade on a quiz, and then you think, oh fuck, it's over. I should just give up. And I've struggled with that in the past, where I feel like if I can't get it perfect, I might as well just don't even do it. And I tried this year, and now that I'm a little older, much older, and wiser, I've actually forced myself to like stick through and not drop any classes, no matter what. Like
Nice.
even if I don't get the A, even if I got a failing grade, which is not the end of the world, and I realized that. I'm like, okay, it's okay to fail. And that was very, very difficult for me to accept for a long time. But being able to be okay with that and just pushing through and like actually doing it, like you realize, okay, it's not the end of the world. And I actually turn out getting a good grade.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
I have.
for a long time, as for me, because for me, I've been in school for many, many years. One of my biggest issues with trying to like finish my degree is because I would start and then stop like halfway through, because I was so scared of that failure of getting a failing grade. And as I was talking to a therapist, like, what is failure? Like, what does that mean? Like,
Yes.
what does it mean to fail? And that really like shook me for a minute. It's like, okay, well, what's gonna happen if you do? And he said something like along the lines like, it takes a lot of effort to fail, which like it took me a while to really understand what he meant by that. Um, because with school, it's very kind of like, do this, turn this in, and get a grade. I think I personally put a lot of like emotional and like weight to it. Like, if I don't do this, then I can't be the person that I visioned for myself.
That's
And
heavy for
it's,
one school
yeah.
assignment. That's a lot.
Yeah, right. For one lab assignment, right?
Yeah, right.
So that being able to accept that mentality, like it's okay to fail, it actually made school life much easier this semester.
That's
It
amazing.
did.
So glad.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot of what, I have this task initiation class, it's called How to Do the Thing. And so it was 6 hours. I think it's going to be 8 now. I mean, there's like activities, it's very neurodivergent friendly, but it's long.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, like there's so many reasons why people struggle to get started, and like not knowing what the expectations are, getting overwhelmed, like all these things. But one of the biggest ones is the perfectionism thing, which sounds like
Yeah.
the part that you struggle with. And actually Amanda Carey, another coach I work with, she has a perfectionism class, which I think is really cool.
I love that. I love the sound of that.
Yes.
Everybody shows up on time, right?
Yeah, right. But like one of what we work on, I think people come to me as an ADHD coach and they're like, oh, how can I be more productive? And I'm like, okay, I can help you be more productive, but actually the first thing we need is to get to the point where you don't care if you're productive. Like I can help you succeed
Yeah.
more, but I need you to be okay with failing. Like if you sign
Yes.
up for that gym membership January 1st, like and then March comes along and you have only used it 3 times. Like I need you to just like accept it, be like, okay, this is not happening. It's not my fault. This just isn't the right thing for me. And we pivot, we come up with a plan.
Yes.
And the same also, I was thinking about my nephew. I love my nephew so much, but like the 4-year-old is very already, you can see like the rejection sensitivity and kind of perfectionism in him. And he's playing video games, and so I always tell him like, oh, if you lose, because he's really into I win, everything has to be winning. And I'm like, well, if you win, that's good, that shows what you know, but you didn't learn anything. You only learn something if you're trying like something new, and then it's hard, and then you lose, and then you're learning from that. So then he's playing, I think it was Mario Kart or something, and after one round he would go, I won, and I would go, good job, congratulations, like you showed what you learned, your skills. And then he would go, I lost, and I go, good job, you learned something, you practiced new skills. Like if you're always winning, you're not challenging yourself. And like,
absolutely. So. And I love that idea that we should be able to at least congratulate the children that if they lose or if they fail, because it just shows that at least they tried, and they'll learn something from that failure. They'll learn something from that loss.
Yes.
And I think the most important thing is that they'll learn that it's not the end of the world either.
Yeah.
That it is perfectly okay to fail. And it's perfectly okay to try again as many times as you need.
Yeah. And for some of us, that's a lot of times.
Yes, absolutely. Believe me, I'm definitely one of them. It's like, it didn't start clicking for me until maybe this past year. It was a very trying year, but it's okay to try over again. And it's okay, no matter like how many tries it takes. Whether it be, that old saying, if you fall down 7 times, get up 8 times,
Yeah. So
I have like, I know, right? Or like, hold on, I have a lot of these. When a child is like learning to walk, they don't like when they're learning to, and they stumble, they don't say, okay, this is not for me, I give up.
Thank goodness.
No, of course not. Exactly. No, they just get up and keep on trying until they get it.
I love it.
And I love that. I really wish I had learned that when I was younger. So the fact that your 5-year-old nephew is already like getting that good, that like life lesson, I'm so happy to hear that.
That kid is screwed because I do this work, and then my sister, Angie does this work. She works in serendipity and stuff. And so between the two of us, those kids have every, like I'll go, it's okay to be mad, and he'll go, not okay to hurt people. He's gonna be so
I love it.
Psychologied out by the time
I love it. I can't wait to see what kind of adult he grows up to be.
I know. Yeah, that's something that's fun in my the neurodivergent community, especially the people I've met on TikTok. A lot of them are parents, and you just see them raising their neurodivergent kids with just full understanding, empathy, acceptance, oh, you're struggling to clean your room. Let's figure out a new system. Let's learn these skills.
Yeah.
Let's do these things. Like, oh, you're struggling at school. Like, let's do it. And you're just like, wow, this next generation
I know.
Is amazing.
I love that, honestly. Gosh, because, if that were our case in our time, they would say like, no, they'll probably smack us like, get over it. Do it now.
Right.
Yeah. It's
just postponing the support that we need, and then we have to pay for it in therapy later. So if you can just,
I know. Seriously, the millennial struggle.
All right. Oh, one of the questions that someone asked me to ask is like, okay, so let's say you have a friend, partner, family member, somebody who's neurodivergent, like me, that you put up with all my bullshit for so many years. So like, how would you like if I was trying to explain, like, let's say you, like, I don't think you've ever needed me to like relied on me for something like that serious, other than like show up on time. But like, let's say, so like today I was like 20-30 minutes late, whatever, right? So I had to reschedule because it snowed, and that threw everything off. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. So how would you want a neurodivergent person, what would work to explain? Like, so if I'm like, I keep being late, and I'm like, look, and you're like, hey, that's disrespectful. Like, you need to respect my time. What could I say to you to help you understand how little control I have over those sorts of
like, just spit it out. Just say it. Because like, I guess because I know you and I've known you for a long time, when you're trying to say something but going around trying to saying it, I can see it and I can spot it. I was like, okay, she's trying to tell me something, but she's probably too scared to say it up front. So I would just say it'd be much easier and it'd be much quicker to just say, okay, yeah, like today, okay, you were, it's snowing, you're late, that's fine,
Yeah.
And just say that, and just explain, like, let's say if it was like a scheduling conflict, at least like for me, you would just say, and if you can't do it today, that's fine, you can always reschedule.
Yeah.
Then that makes it feel like, okay, at least she respects my time and know that, it's she's aware that, and she's willing to make right for the fact that she was late.
I
Yeah.
like that. Okay. What about with like executive dysfunction? So let's say you have a roommate who just always has messy dishes in the sink, no matter how many times you tell them, and they're trying to explain, like, I literally cannot do this. Like, how could they? Is there a magic way that they could explain that to you where you would be like, okay, like, I'm not mad at you. Let's make a plan.
I'm not mad at you. I'm mad at the dishes.
Yeah, yeah, like that.
Oh gosh, what they say. I guess maybe try to explain my position that, I don't like living in a house or living in a kitchen full of dirty dishes because it brings, rodents, and then there's like, it causes like, the dishes to like wear out. And, I would maybe try to see if there's like a way you could feel like empathize from at least my point of view, at least the fact that I always clean my dishes after I'm done, because I know that it also makes a nice living space for all of us, not just me.
So like
Maybe
taking
that
the
could
time to really make sure that like, and I think that this is something that I had a big problem with when I was younger. I'm pretty good at communicating with my roommates now. When I was younger, definitely it was like, I'm looking at the dishes that I know I'm supposed to do it. I can't do it. I don't know why. My brain's just stuck and I'm feeling guilty. I know it's stressing out my roommates, especially when I lived with my roommate who's now in my basement, that is, very type A, needs everything to be clean and tidy. And
right.
I know that having the dishes in the sink would stress them out, but I would just look at it and like be like, oh, I need to avoid that. Like, I can't have this conversation.
Yeah.
I know that they're mad at me. So like, da 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 da. But I think you're right in the fact that if I was just like, hey, I just want to acknowledge, I know this stresses you out. I know it's not fair to you. I know that the dishes are a big deal. I know it's important. I don't want ants or rats or whatever is going to be, like popping up. Like, I also want the dishes to be done. And I know that this is really like putting you off and like is really it's stressing you out. Like my inability to do this is affecting you and is stressing you out. I think that's good advice to like really take the time to empathize and not be too afraid of the conflict.
Yeah, absolutely.
That,
because if you say it that way, then I'm sure your roommate will totally understand. Like, okay, that's fine. Not everybody is a type A personality. Not everybody has to wash the dishes 2 seconds before they're done eating,
Yeah, right.
And then once you acknowledge that and get that out of the way, then you can just figure something else out for the future. Use paper plates, use, plastic forks, make the test a little bit easier for you if you can't like wash them right away.
Yeah, my partner literally has
utilize your dishwasher.
He has a bowl, a plate, you met Chase, like a bowl, a plate, and a fork and a spoon, and he keeps it on top. Like, he's really tall, so like he keeps it on top of it. I can't reach it and no one else can reach it, and he literally just like eats out of it, hand washes it, and puts it back up there. And I'm just like, that's one way to do it. Like, he's like, it's not going to be dishes in the sink. Like you said, like, then there's a lot. And the way that I've done it too in the past is like, hey, how about, I'll clean the toilet in the shower and you clean the sink, or you
perfect. That's another way. Compromise, negotiate.
I hate,
like, say you're like, yeah, because for me, honestly, I don't like doing dishes either. I hate it. But one thing that I'm really good at, I like cleaning the bathroom. I like having a nice clean bathroom that, that to me is no issue, because I guess that was one of those dishes that I didn't have to do as a child. So now it's like, I have no problem with it. So you can just, you can discuss that with your roommate. Okay, you take care of the kitchen, I'll take care of the bathrooms, and then just work something that comes out easier for both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really good. All right. Okay. Let's see. I'm like, is there anything else I want to pick your brain about? I think it's interesting. There is some, like that there is some executive dysfunction stuff. There is some perfectionist stuff. There is some anxiety, because of, and who knows if it's all the way you were raised or if there was some, biological predisposition to you being that way. But in general, you've been able to navigate the world, like social situations, jobs, school, without completely hating yourself. And like,
not completely. I think although we may differ in our neurodiversity, but we were also raised by a very specific generation, maybe because we're both raised by boomers.
Yeah.
And like to them it was either their way or the highway. So I've learned to kind of forgive my parents and my older generations, because they're also doing the best that they can with the abilities that they have. So like I know with my mom, our relationship, like I've learned to understand why she is so rigid. And I know that she grew up in a very different time, in a very different world than I am right now.
Yeah.
And being able to at least acknowledge that and accept that makes our relationship a lot easier now. Because then, and then hearing how the younger generation will definitely have it a lot easier than I did, that also makes me feel a little bit better too.
Yeah. That's why we do this work, man. It's just,
yeah,
we have
definitely.
to, if it can't be for us, it's got to be for them. Like, Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's so much fun seeing the Gen Zers nowadays, where they don't, I love that I'm seeing so many younger kids quitting jobs that they hate, that they're not taking any shit. And like, I love that they're not accepting any kind of like misogyny, any kind of racism, any kind of homophobia. I'm like, good for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's hope.
Yes. Honestly, it really is. It does make me like more hopeful and just happy to see it. I'm happy, honestly, because God knows I wish I had quit so many jobs that I hated, but I did it because I thought I had that feeling that it was what I had to do. And and then the guilt, I would be just guilt ridden by like my family, by my friends, by society if I didn't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. On that light note.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much. It was just good to see you. I should probably stop recording and then keep hanging out with you to catch up. But I am really appreciate you coming on here and being on my wacky new YouTube channel that will get more professional. I'm sorry about the light atop my head. This is the best I could do today.
Yeah, so, it's like your little halo. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm just smelling in my cat ears. I don't know,
there it is. Now you can see it.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And do you have anything to say to wrap it up or anything?
I mean, yeah, just do you, boo. Be true to you. Do what makes you happy, because honestly, life is short.
That's beautiful.
Give them hell. Give them hell, kids.
Go get them, kids. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Well, that's that. So thank you so much for watching. Please comment below if there was anything that you related to or that you found interesting about Alex's story. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok at ADHD Coach Sheila and on my website at sheilahenson.com.